Closer look now at that decision by the chair and the decision by Zuma and his legal team to actually walk out in defiance of the Commission rules. I'm joined by Cathy Powell. She's an associate professor in the Department of Public Law at the University of Cape Town. Prof, thanks very much for your time. Jacob Zuma and his legal team walking out. Is this something that is so serious that it should be followed up with some sort of punishment? What is your view on the decision by the legal team to just leave?
Well, to put it mildly, it's not done. But when it's done by a former president, the mind boggles. There must definitely be a response from the Commission. What they've got in their quiver is not only the contempt of court charge, but there is also a separate offence under the regulations of disrespecting the Commission. So Zondo himself could issue a warrant of arrest if his team makes an application for it, much as he issued a summons. Because remember that a commission has the powers of a court of law in its efforts to get evidence. So it's been able to subpoena Jacob Zuma, and remember, subpoena means under penalty. So if Jacob Zuma does not respect that subpoena, it can then impose a penalty. It can also impose penalties while Jacob Zuma refuses to speak. So unless the Commission actually starts doing one of these things, then what you've got is Jacob Zuma showing complete contempt, not just for the Commission, but for all the people of South Africa who need to know what the truth is about corruption under his watch.
Couldn't his lawyers, Zuma's lawyers, have a fairly strong argument saying, look, very often if one plans to appeal a legal decision, the decision that is being appealed has to be held off on?
Well, that happens if a court has made the decision. So if it's a court judgment, then it is immediately in abeyance if it gets appealed. But with a commission, one might argue that we're dealing with a more administrative act in this case. And I have heard legal commentators saying that the Commission could actually go ahead. And if Zuma's legal team want to stop it, they'd have to apply for an interdict. And I must say, much as there have been two views expressed on this, that idea that the Commission can go ahead seems more convincing to me, because an interdict would not be able to show that any irreparable harm is being done to Jacob Zuma himself just by being made to give his evidence. This is such an unprecedented thing. People don't walk out of commissions of inquiry, they cooperate. So suddenly, all the rules are up in the air, and people are trying to work out how the normal court rules can get transferred over to a commission of inquiry.
Ultimately, if former President Zuma never appears before the Commission before its time is over, and that is looking increasingly likely, will it affect the final report? Because ultimately, your appearance at a Commission is sometimes a chance to give your point of view and to explain why people who were incriminating you were wrong.
That's the point that Judge Zondo keeps trying to make. So yes, by not turning up, he loses the chance to exculpate himself. On the other hand, it gives him his favorite trick, which is to say, well, the findings are inaccurate because they didn't take my side of the story. And then he will go on to say, and I couldn't get my side of the story because the judge was biased. But quite frankly, I don't think we're going to convince Jacob Zuma. All we can do is carry on and keep the integrity of the process as strong as possible so that the rule of law can be obeyed as much as possible, and we can actually get a finding out of this Commission of Inquiry.
Given that so much money has been spent on this inquiry and that, as you say, a former president has walked out of this inquiry, it shows it's an insult to the inquiry.
Very much so.
It's also a time when we've seen the Bushiris flee the country completely disregarding their bail conditions. What does this say about our legal system's ability to get people to do what they're meant to do by law?
It suggests there are serious problems in the law enforcement process of South Africa, either because of inefficiency or because of corruption. And ironically, this is the very thing that the Commission is investigating, amongst others, which is how institutions of state were weakened to allow the looting to occur. So one of the institutions that was, for example, quite gutted was the NPA. Now, the NPA has been making a good recovery, but perhaps it and the police and the other officials who are actually meant to make sure that the law happens were just not ready for this. On the other hand, we've got to admit it's the kind of surprise that, would be on nobody's bingo card, much as we know that Jacob Zuma is forever holding back and refusing to cooperate and making things as difficult as possible. He's never actually blatantly and flagrantly violated the law before. Today he committed a crime, and it doesn't seem to bother him. And I think just as it shocked Judge Zondo, it maybe shocked the systems that are meant to step in and respond when something like this happens. We're in uncharted territory here, and if this is allowed to go on, then the rule of law is in serious danger in South Africa.
Well, thank you so much for your time. That's Cathy Powell, Associate Professor in the Department of Public Law at the University of Cape Town.